Hi, and thanks for joining us today. This is a presentation on improving performance in machine and job shops. This particular webinar is different than the others we've been running in that we'll discuss business practices here, and while some of the context will show how RealTrack supports best practices, much of it will be focused on processes and practices that improve shop performance in terms of customer satisfaction, growth, and profit. Our specific objectives are to share the 5 best practices used by leading job shops, to discuss how shops gain from using these practices, to present challenges and tactics for putting those practices in place, and to show how RealTrack's ERP system supports these best practices. We'll also talk at various points about the owner's role in implementing the best practices. Again, thanks for being here. My name is Tom Buck. I'm RealTrack's General Manager. So when we start talking about best practices, we need to define it. What's a best practice? It's a method, technique, or process which measurably and consistently shows superior results to alternative methods. It's become a buzzword describing the search for, definition, and attainment of higher levels of performance in a set of practices. There's a lot of research out. The research reports that benchmark shops have a focus on using data and operational processes to maximize machine uptime. Shops with leading-edge tools and practices are far more likely to win the more talented employees and win more profitable contracts. Shops running a systematic, metric-based operation and an organized business plan gain better results than those without those items. Benchmark shops in general make 1.5 times greater return on capital invested, and shops exhibiting best practices spend 3 times as much on tooling as others who do not, and they can afford it. 94% of manufacturers over $50 million in sales have ERP systems. Our research indicates the number of shops under $10 million who have ERP is less than 20%. These are likely your competitors, and you're in a better position when you have the ERP system. Shops with best practices provide more hours for employee training and provide more shop floor decision making to employees. So let's talk about a vision of a great shop. It would be to use the unique knowledge of the leaders of the organization to sell and produce items that customers need in a safe and profitable manner that engages talented employees with the right tools and provides a return on equity to the owners. Some key activities that support this vision include organizing the work of team members to meet goals with clear short and long-term objectives, defined processes, the right talent, managing accountability of all organization members, including suppliers, and creating an engaging and honest environment. They would also be effective at selling the capabilities of the organization, solid communication skills, good relationship building, consistently meeting customer requirements, and you learn as an organization and constantly improve. You measure performance, including yourself and customer evaluations. You foster a learning attitude throughout the organization, and you maintain an open mind to trying new things. I'd like you to think for a moment. What is something that your shop does best? When we talk with some of the new customers coming into RealTrack, they talk about turnaround on job orders, or they brag about some quality scores, or they talk about having lots of work and winning a lot, and machining talent. What do they need to do better? If you think about what your shop needs to do better, we hear sometimes it's managing problems, it's being more organized, it's having our processes organized, and it's getting more working together behaviors between various functions and the shop floor. What we want to talk about for your shop is the 5 best practices which are listed here. A complete production planning effort, measuring floor operations, planning and reviewing performance regularly, a commitment to quality, and annual planning. We're going to take a look at each one of these. So we'll start with this complete production planning effort. Production work must be planned and communicated to all those involved. So in order to implement this best practice, you use start of work meetings when jobs are won, and you prepare those jobs for launch by having your team that's going to manage that job together and talking about what has to happen. A best practice is to assign a job leader who manages that job across disciplines, and the job leader represents that job at the start of work meeting and all progress meetings. We support work planning in RealTrack by allowing for the creation of routers that allow for the description of every operation in the job and the expected amount of time that the job would take. The best work planning systems would allow for easy review of drawings, setups, work instructions, and other support information. People involved in the work on the job can easily find and insert information as they work on the job. There are challenges to implementing this best practice. Time pressure, for example. Often we find that shops are hurrying to get a quote out, and that causes the effort of work planning at the quoting stage to be less than complete. The start of work meeting process completes that definition when the work is done. Lack of job ownership. Jobs are often hitting the floor in a lot of shops without a job leader, and that creates problems. Assigning a team member to watch over the job, to manage priority conflicts, and represent the customer heads off quality, cost, and delivery issues. The second best practice is measuring floor operations. Operators must track logging into and logging out of each operation of any kind on a job. You want to be able to measure time, quantity, quality, and any observations. The crucial knowledge of knowing how long it takes for specific operations by particular operators, by particular machines with specific materials, and capturing those unique observations is vital to improving shop performance. An absence of this data for specific jobs makes performance analysis impossible. Without these measures, a shop has little visibility on its jobs. It is operating from intuition, not from real information. In RealTrack, the shop floor PC view shows progress on jobs, employees logged in, and time remaining on estimated operations. The RealTrack Remote Starter mobile app for iOS devices can make logging in and out more convenient for operators so they can be at their operation when they're logging in and logging out, so that the measurement is more convenient. A couple of challenges to implementing. Got to change habits. Training on how to do the simple reporting necessary for operational data collection is very important. Find mentors on the floor. Offer training sessions where mentors show how it's done, and have each operator practice until proficient. RealTrack has created short support videos for operators to help in this education. There's also a hassle factor that has to be overcome. Locate shop floor PCs so that data entry is convenient, or use the Remote Starter app to provide further convenience. Operators must see data input as part of the job, not extra duty and not optional. It's understood as a key part of managing cost, quality, and continuous improvement. Let's talk about the next practice. Regular team meetings to plan and review job performance. Establishing a regular meeting and agenda for planning and review of all jobs will improve business performance. It allows you to compare expectations to reality and constantly explore how to do better. Look for what went well in these meetings and what didn't go so well. Identify actions to replicate success, to solve problems, and to prepare for future jobs. Document learning in job notes in your RealTrack system as specifically as possible in ways which will be visible when similar jobs are launched in the future. A solid format for these meetings is a daily meeting where you talk about top priorities in the job queue, a weekly meeting where you talk about deliveries and problem analysis, a monthly meeting for financial review, a quarterly meeting for business plan progress and customer reviews. Again, we see a router here. People involved in the work must have access to key information as they work on the job and are easily able to insert new information or observations. In each of these areas, you can see there is on these forms that allow for the addition of notes or the reporting of notes that have been gathered in the past that help add information to the job description and how to do it. The challenges to implementing include no consistency. If you start to establish this drumbeat for planning and review meetings and you're consistent on when it is, how long it is, and how your agenda works, it requires you be consistent and forceful about attendance. Make them meaningful meetings and engaging and as short as possible. Have strong meeting leaders who engage the job leaders and all functions, but be consistent in how you approach it. And then watch out about airtime. Have an agenda for each type of meeting because they're all different. Keep minutes on the key lessons learned, on actions and assignments determined. Review the assignments at the next meeting. Keep the meetings on track and minimize the emotional baggage. Don't let people start getting too much airtime if it's not adding value to the meeting. The point is to constructively learn how to do better, not to place blame. The next best practice is making a quality commitment and establishing a corrective action process. You all, I'm sure, know that meeting the customer's requirements, that's the definition of quality. It's a journey focused on understanding customer requirements and building processes and products which attain them. Achieving stable and capable manufacturing processes, delivery management, performance management, and continuous improvement are all components in a quality system. Corrective action includes containing any bad product, understanding root causes, and implementing short-term and systemic actions to prevent the cause in the future. The best organizations achieve the full engagement of their employee team, an atmosphere of accountability and reward, and an absence of blame. Here are a couple forms that are built into the RealTrack program: a corrective action reporting form and non-conformance reporting. Those are key parts of the quality process, and using these tools well makes you a stronger organization. Some challenges to implementing. Sometimes this quality process can just seem too big. Keep the process as simple as possible. Make it many small steps which bring team members along. Make it part of everything being done. Expect the quality journey to be ongoing, long-term, and a never-ending effort. And sometimes it seems like the leaders are not visible in the process, and leaders must model the process by using the quality tools and the quality jargon. Build it into everything you do. Coach team members on how the tools would help. Find gains from the process and show them off. Study other companies to see how they make it work. Our fifth best practice is annual planning and constant progress. A best practice among the very best machine shops is to build a strategic plan, to push forward, requiring leadership to set direction for the organization, set the big goals, identify the supporting objectives, clarify the accountabilities, and manage for attainment. Review your SWOT, your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, for inputs to your strategy for growth. Measure progress and make the annual planning progress and process reviews part of your drumbeat. And remember, those who stand still will fall behind. Here's an example strategic plan document, just the very beginning of it, but it becomes a guide for action and decisions. Challenges to implementing strategic planning include that thinking a year or a year and a half ahead or 5 years ahead just seems too far out. So the best way to get started is to set a time for a leadership retreat early in the fourth quarter of the year and start thinking about next year. Gather data on your company performance for inputs. Build your SWOT during the retreat meeting. Set goals based on what you learn from that analysis for growth, quality, financial, and capability areas. And then in terms of follow-through, it can seem like you never have time to work on those objectives. Well, that time has to be put on the calendar, and it has to be made a top priority for any of the execution of the plans. But the same thing goes for this retreat and any quarterly progress meetings. Make the progress review meetings a priority. Have structured agenda for any review meeting, and reward those who lead and attain goals, and coach those having difficulties. In pulling this presentation together, we hope at RealTrack that you will find some ideas here that will help you win the business race. I drew on the experiences of Don Colley and Ron Satimi in pulling this together. They've worked with machine and job shops across North America for decades. A couple publications I looked at and have been viewing these Aberdeen benchmark reports. Also a reflection on the various quality gurus that have been around for the last 2 or 3 decades: Albert Humphrey, Jacques Elliott, W. Edwards Deming, Philip Crosby, and Joseph Juran. Certainly some familiar names. Send us a note. Send it to Jeremy on one idea or one thought you gained for your shop from today's presentation. We do have a little bit of time for questions here. Thanks for joining this presentation. We'll now open it up to whatever questions you have on the things we talked about today. Thanks again for being here.